Disclaimer, content in this video has been created strictly for educational and investigational purposes. There is no intention to glamorise or endorse criminality or any aspect of crime. The information in this video has been acquired online from publicly available sources.
When you think of Dubai, what comes to mind? Luxury, glamour, shiny skyscrapers and a playground for the rich and famous. But beneath the surface of this shiny desert paradise lies a darker question. Is Dubai the new Las Vegas? A city built on crime money? In this video, we're diving into the secret world of criminals who've made Dubai their home, evading authorities from all over the world. We'll explore how the cities became a haven for well-known criminals, the criminal operations behind the glitter, and how the government's policies on extradition plays a massive role. I'm Hawaii 5-0, and this is Patsy Crime. Once upon a time, Dubai was a quiet desert outpost on the Persian Gulf, but over the last few decades, it's transformed into one of the most luxurious cities in the world. But just like Las Vegas in the past, there's a shadowy side to the city's growth. It's now a place where some of the world's most notorious criminals have sought refuge. Las Vegas was built on money from the mob. Criminal empires poured cash into the casinos and hotels, using the bright lights to hide their shadowy dealings. Could Dubai be following in Vegas' footsteps? Let's take a closer look and see what's really going on. Dubai's earned a reputation as a safe haven for criminals from all over the world. When the authorities are closing in, some of the world's most wanted figures have chosen Dubai as their escape. Why? Let's take a look at a few well-known criminals who fled to the city in the desert. Ridouan Taghi. One of Europe's most wanted men, Taghi wasn't just a criminal, he was the head of a massive drug empire based in the Netherlands, responsible for a global network of crime, including drug trafficking, violence and murder. The greatest hits, you know what I'm talking about? Ridouan Taghi was born in Morocco in 1977 and raised in the Netherlands. He quickly became involved in the drug trade and climbed his way up through the criminal underworld, becoming one of the most feared figures in Europe. By the mid-2010s, Taghi had established himself as the head of an extensive international drug trafficking network, importing cocaine and ecstasy from South America and overseeing its distribution across Europe. He loved a party, Taghi. Taghi's organisation, often referred to as the Mocro Mafia, was also notorious for its brutal methods of enforcement. Taghi wasn't just a drug dealer. He was a murderer who orchestrated numerous contract killings to eliminate rivals, witnesses and even journalists. However, the beginning of the end would eventually come when his cartel were responsible for the murder of prominent Dutch lawyer Dawood Ibrahim in 2019, who had been representing a key witness in a case against the Mocro Mafia. Ibrahim's assassination sent shockwaves through the Netherlands, highlighting just how far Taghi's influence extended. Don't take out the lawyer, you know what I mean? Bit of advice there. As law enforcement wrapped up efforts to arrest him, Taghi fled to Dubai, taking advantage of the luxury lifestyle and lack of an extradition treaty with the Netherlands at the time. Dubai's booming real estate market, exclusive gated communities and the discretion offered by his luxury properties made it the ideal hiding spot for a criminal like Taghi. He remained hidden for months, evading capture, despite being the subject of an international manhunt. He was on the run having fun with Taghi. In December of that year, Taghi would be eventually arrested by the Dubai police and extradited to the Netherlands. Then in October 2022, he was sentenced to life imprisonment by a Dutch court. I would have hated to have been his lawyer. Ridouan Taghi's extradition was a unique case. His violent crimes, international drug trafficking, and involvement in high-profile assassinations made him a top priority for Dutch authorities and Interpol. The intense diplomatic pressure, combined with Dubai's desire to maintain its international reputation, led to his eventual arrest and extradition, even without a formal treaty in place. I mean, you've really got to annoy somebody if you fled to Dubai and Dubai went like that. You know what, mate? I know, listen, We let this guy, let that guy. You need to go. Party's over, mate. You need to try somewhere else, pal. You know what I mean? Dubai had to be the bouncer in the Savoy on a Sunday. And then there's Dawood Ibrahim. Dawood Ibrahim, Indian crime lord linked to terrorism, drug trafficking and the infamous 1993 Bombay bombings. Dawood has been on the run for decades, and while there have been rumours that he's been hiding in Dubai, he remains out of reach of Indian authorities. His case highlights how criminals can sometimes use Dubai's complex political relationships to their advantage, making it harder for law enforcement to track them down. That guy was responsible for bombings and they couldn't get him. You know what I mean? Dawood Ibrahim was born in Mumbai, India in 1955. From an early age, he became involved in the city's criminal underworld. He quickly rose to power, founding the D Company, a notorious criminal syndicate involved in everything from drug trafficking to extortion. D Company became one of the most feared organisations in South Asia, with Dawood establishing himself as a major figure in the global underworld. Dawood's list of crimes is extensive, but he's infamous for his involvement in the 1993 Bombay bombings, a series of 13 coordinated bomb blasts across Mumbai that killed over 250 people and injured many more. These bombings were a form of retaliation for anti-Muslim riots that had taken place in India months earlier. Dawood orchestrated the attacks with support from terrorist organisations such as Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence. In addition to terrorism, Dawood's D Company has been heavily involved in the drug trade, smuggling heroin and other narcotics into Europe, the Middle East and Africa. His ties to terrorist networks, including Al-Qaeda, have made him a target for both Indian and American intelligence agencies, leading him to be labelled as a global terrorist by the United States. That's when you know you're in trouble, you know what I mean? After the 1993 bombings, Dawood fled India and has been on the run ever since. Over the years, there's been numerous reports suggesting that Dawood has used Dubai as one of his primary hideouts. Dubai's cosmopolitan culture, political connections and complex relations with India and Pakistan have allowed Dawood to remain beyond the reach of Indian authorities. Despite multiple extradition requests, India has been unable to bring him back to justice, leading many to believe that Dawood has powerful connections that protect him. Let's just say he's in the Olympics, have been on the run. Although there are also reports suggesting that Dawood has spent time in Pakistan, the exact details of his whereabouts are shrouded in mystery. What remains clear is that his global criminal network continues to thrive, despite international efforts to shut it down. Pulling strings look at ain't a thing. But it's not just individual criminals seeking refuge in Dubai. Criminal organisations have also taken root in this glitzy city. Why? Well, with Dubai's role as a global financial hub, it's an attractive place for laundering money, moving illegal funds and even continuing their operations. So let's just take a look at some criminal organisations that have found a home in Dubai. The Vori Visakoni, or quote-unquote thieves in law, is one of the most infamous Russian criminal syndicates with global operations. Members of this syndicate have been known to launder their money through Dubai's booming real estate market, buying luxury apartments and villas. These criminals use Dubai's global financial infrastructure to conduct illicit financial transactions and avoid scrutiny in their home countries. One high-profile thieves-in-law member is also known as Guli, who was one of the most prominent figures in the syndicate. Nadir Salafov was an influential and feared leader within the thieves-in-law syndicate. Born in Azerbaijan, Salafov became one of the most powerful crime bosses in the post-Soviet world, with significant influence over criminal activities in Russia, Turkey and the Middle East, including Dubai. Sure, it was also in extortion, drug trafficking and money laundering, amassing significant wealth. Salafov had been residing in Dubai, using the city as a base of operations for his criminal empire. He lived in luxury, moving discreetly and continuing to control various illegal enterprises across several countries. Despite his low profile, Salafov was a key target for law enforcement agencies due to his criminal activities and his status within the thieves-in-law hierarchy. The turning point in Salafov's criminal career came in August 2020, when he travelled to Turkey, a country where he had significant influence and connections within both the criminal world and amongst corrupt officials. Despite his careful movements, Salafov's presence in Turkey did not go unnoticed. Rival factions within the Thieves and Law Syndicate had long been seeking to eliminate him due to his growing power and the threats he posed to their own operations. It is believed that his enemies orchestrated a plan to have him captured or killed, exploiting his presence in Turkey. Salafov would be eventually assassinated in a restaurant in Antalya. He was shot by a close associate who had gained his trust but was secretly working on behalf of his rivals. The gunman reportedly sat down to dine with Salafov before pulling out a gun and shooting him in the head at close range. That's one way to get a hair transplant. Salafov's death marked the end of one of the most powerful figures within the Thieves and Law Syndicate. It also highlighted the ongoing power struggles within the syndicate and the reach of its influence across multiple countries. But Dubai is also a hub for a very different type of criminal. Dubai's proximity to Africa has made it an attractive destination for West African criminal organisations involved in fraud and drug trafficking. Nigerian cybercrime syndicates have gained notoriety for their involvement in various online scams, often targeting businesses and individuals across the globe. Dubai, with its modern infrastructure, global connectivity, and the historically relaxed regulatory environment, has been a key hub for these cybercriminals. One of the most prominent figures involved in Nigerian cybercrime and based in Dubai was Ramon Abbas, better known as Hushpuppi. He was an Instagram influencer who flaunted his wealth online, living a luxurious lifestyle in Dubai whilst engaging in a wide range of various cybercrimes. Hushpuppi and his associates used social media platforms to pose as wealthy individuals and romantically targeted vulnerable people, asking for money under the guise of medical bills, business investments or travel expenses. I mean, go into your spam folder right now and I guarantee you've not got at least 10 emails for a Nigerian prince or a preacher who says you're a multi-billionaire by some relative that's been completely made up and has left you a fortune. Hushpuppi and his associates were heavily involved in BEC schemes targeting businesses around the world. A BEC scheme is a business email compromise. It's a highly sophisticated form of fraud where cyber criminals impersonate company executives or trusted partners to trick employees into transferring large sums of money to fraudulent accounts. BEC attacks typically involve gaining access to email accounts through phishing or hacking, and then sending fake invoices and requests for wire transfers to employees in finance or accounting departments. One notable case involved a $1.1 million BEC scam against a Qatari businessman. Hushpuppi and his team impersonated lawyers and bankers to trick the victim into sending money for a fake school construction project. The funds were laundered through Dubai bank accounts and funneled into luxury goods and real estate. Meanwhile, I can't even get a text back. Hushpuppi was also involved in CEO fraud. CEO fraud is a subtype of BEC fraud where cybercriminals impersonate a high-ranking executive such as a CEO or a CFO and target employees, typically in the finance department, to authorise large payments to fraudulent accounts. These schemes require meticulous social engineering and they often involve multiple layers of deception. Hushpuppi's network was also involved in various online retail fraud schemes, which typically involve setting up fake e-commerce websites that advertised high-end luxury goods or vehicles at discounted prices. Victims, believing they were purchasing the real products, would transfer money to accounts controlled by Hushpuppi's team. Once the money was received, the websites would disappear and the goods would never be delivered. These scams would often target individuals looking to buy luxury cars, watches or electronics, with payments funneled through Dubai bank accounts and laundered through real estate or other investment. Hushpuppi's downfall began when international law enforcement agencies started connecting the dots between his extravagant lifestyle and the mounting evidence of cyber fraud. His social media presence, which was once his claim to fame, became a trail of breadcrumbs. In June 2020, the police, in collaboration with the FBI and Interpol, carried out a raid on Hushpuppi's luxury residence in Dubai. The operation, dubbed Fox Hunt 2, resulted in the arrest of Hushpuppi and several of his associates. The police seized millions of dollars in cash, 13 luxury cars, 21 computers and 47 smartphones, along with evidence linking him to nearly 2 million victims around the world. Following his arrest, Hushpuppi was extradited to the United States to face charges of money laundering, cyber fraud and conspiracy. In a US court, Hushpuppi pleaded guilty to several charges and admitting to being part of a global network that orchestrated massive fraud schemes. In November 2022, Hushpuppi was sentenced to 11 years in a federal prison and ordered to pay $1.7 million in restitution to his victims. This case drew significant media attention, serving as a stark reminder of the reach and impact of cybercrime in the digital age. In recent years, Dubai has become a key transit point for drug trafficking networks linked to the Triads, particularly the 14K Triad. The Triads have been involved in a range of criminal activities, from drug trafficking to human smuggling and money laundering. Dubai's strategic location between Asia, Europe and Africa makes it an attractive hub for these illicit activities. The 14K Triad has its roots in Hong Kong, but its influence extends globally, including Southeast Asia, Europe and the Middle East. The Triad is heavily involved in the international drug trade, particularly the trafficking of methamphetamine, heroin and other synthetic drugs. Dubai's rapid economic growth and relatively lenient financial regulations has made it a prime location for laundering the proceeds of these illegal activities. Over time, the 14K Triad established connections with local criminal networks and corrupt officials, allowing them to operate with a degree of impunity. In 2016, a large-scale international investigation uncovered a major drug trafficking operation linked to the 14K Triad that was using Dubai as a transit hub. The operation involved shipping large quantities of methamphetamine from Southeast Asia to Europe, with the drugs passing through Dubai. The investigation revealed that the Triad set up front companies in Dubai to facilitate the import and export of goods, which were used to conceal the movement of drugs. These front companies were involved in legitimate businesses such as textiles and electronics, making it difficult for authorities to detect the illegal activities hidden within their operations. In a coordinated effort between Dubai Police, Interpol and several other international law enforcement agencies, authorities were able to track shipments linked to the Triad's drug operation. This led to a series of raids across Dubai, targeting warehouses and shipping containers associated with the front companies. During the raids, police discovered large amounts of methamphetamine hidden in shipments of electronics and textiles. Several individuals were arrested, including a key figure in the operation who was believed to be a mid-level member of the 14K Triad. This individual had been living in Dubai for several years, managing the logistics of the drug shipments and overseeing the laundering of proceeds from the city's financial institutions. Caught one guy. I couldn't even find out anything about him. I tried. The arrests and seizures were a significant blow to the Triad's operations in the region. The detained gang member, along with others involved, faced charges of drug trafficking, money laundering and participating in an organised criminal enterprise. Due to the serious nature of the crimes, those convicted received lengthy prison sentences, with some facing life imprisonment depending on the charges and jurisdiction. This case highlighted the growing presence of international criminal organisations in Dubai and the challenges law enforcement faced in combating these networks. It also underscored the importance of international cooperation in addressing transnational crime, especially when dealing with highly organised and secretive groups like the Triads. While Chinese Triads operate more discreetly than some of the other criminal organisations in Dubai, media reports have periodically highlighted their role in human trafficking and drug smuggling operations. Their presence reflects the city's increasing importance as a node in global organised crime networks. Now, you might be wondering why there's so many criminal organisations operating with apparent impunity in Dubai that the government must be hot on their heels. Well, while Dubai is often praised for its low crime rates and strict legal system, there have been instances where corruption within law enforcement and government circles has provided a protective shield for these criminal organisations. In a city where money talks, gangs quickly learned that they could use their vast wealth to buy silence and cooperation from key figures. One of the most significant arenas for money laundering in Dubai has been the real estate market. Criminal organisations from around the world saw an opportunity to clean their dirty money by investing in Dubai's luxury properties. But they didn't do it alone. They had a wee bit of help. Teamwork makes the dream work, you know what I mean? In several high-profile cases, it was revealed that certain government officials within Dubai's land and property departments had been facilitating these transactions. These officials were accused of fast-tracking approvals for real estate purchases linked to suspicious sources of income, often overlooking the red flags they should have prompted deeper investigations. In exchange, these officials allegedly received substantial bribes, often disguised as consulting fees, or paid through third-party intermediaries. This system allowed international criminals, including members of notorious Asian and Eastern European syndicates, to purchase multi-million-dollar properties in Dubai, effectively laundering vast sums of money. These properties were then used as legitimate fronts for further criminal activities, all under the nose of local authorities. But corruption wasn't just limited to the halls of the government. Dubai's law enforcement were also implicated in aiding and abetting criminal activities. The lure of easy money proved too tempting for some. In one high-profile case, a senior police officer in Dubai was found to be on the payroll of an international drug trafficking syndicate. This officer, who held a position that gave him access to sensitive information about ongoing investigations, was accused of tipping off the syndicate whenever a raid or arrest was imminent. In return, he received large sums of money, often funneled through offshore accounts or luxury gifts. We'd love to know what kind of luxury gifts you would get for that, know what I mean? A Kinder Bueno or something. That'd be quite luxurious. The scheme unravelled when an international task force working closely with Dubai's anti-corruption unit intercepted communications between the officer and the syndicate. Corruption also infiltrated the world of government contracts. As Dubai rapidly expanded, billions of dollars were poured into infrastructure projects, from highways to skyscrapers. Do you like what I've done there? Poured, cement, poured, concrete. But not all of these contracts were awarded fairly. In the late 2000s, a scandal erupted involving the awarding of a major construction contract to a company with known ties to an Eastern European organised crime group. The company had no track record in large-scale construction. They'd done nothing, yet it managed to secure the contract through what was later revealed to be a series of bribes paid to key decision makers within Dubai's government. These bribes included luxury trips, expensive watches, and even the promise of lucrative real estate deals. The project was plagued with delays and cost overruns, further fueling suspicion. When the scandal broke, it led to a lot of high-profile resignations within the government and an investigation that uncovered a wider network of corruption and criminal ties. Dubai's location in bustling ports had made it a key transit point for goods and contraband. In the mid-2010s, an investigation into smuggling operations uncovered a network of customs officials who were facilitating the movement of contraband, including drugs and counterfeit goods. These officials were paid off by international smugglers to ensure that containers passed through customs with minimal inspection. One of the most shocking revelations was the involvement of a high-ranking customs officer who had been in the department for decades. This officer had used his position to manipulate the inspection process, allowing containers filled with illegal goods to enter Dubai and to be shipped onward to Europe and Africa. The network was dismantled after an undercover sting operation, but the damage to Dubai's reputation as a secure trading hub had been done. But there was members of the government who held an aggressive stance against criminality and vowed to combat the growth of criminal gangs and their infrastructure in Dubai. The first step they took in their new strategy was to close the financial loopholes the criminal gangs had exploited for years. The government introduced anti-money laundering measures that forced banks, real estate companies and financial institutions to scrutinise every transaction. The days of easy money laundering were over. In the halls of Dubai's central bank, new teams were formed. Their tasks were clear: ensure that every suspicious transaction was flagged, every illicit fund traced. Financial institutions were regularly audited, and those that failed to comply with new regulations faced severe penalties. They cracked down, essentially. Nothing lasts forever, does it? But Dubai's fight against organised crime couldn't be won alone. The government reached out to international partners, forging stronger ties with agencies like Interpol, Europol and the FBI. Together, they shared intelligence, conducted joint operations, and began dismantling the criminal networks that spanned continents. In Dubai Police Headquarters, a specialist unit of detectives worked around the clock. Extradition treaties were also expanded, and legal reforms were introduced to make it harder for criminals to find loopholes in the system. In the courtroom, new laws were passed that imposed harsher penalties on money laundering, drug trafficking and human trafficking. Judges were empowered to seize assets obtained through criminal means. Dubai's leadership understood that corruption within its own ranks had been a key enabler of organised crime. To combat this, they adopted a zero-tolerance policy towards corruption. High-profile cases were investigated and prosecuted, sending a clear message that nobody was above the law. Whistleblower protections were introduced, encouraging citizens and officials alike to report any corrupt activities without fear of retaliation. The government also invested heavily in cybersecurity, establishing the Dubai Electronic Security Centre to protect the city's digital infrastructure. Advanced digital forensic tools were deployed to trace and analyse electronic evidence, tracking the criminals' every move in the virtual world. At the city's borders, new surveillance systems were installed. Facial recognition, biometric scanners, and AI-powered analytics became the frontline defence against smuggling and illegal entry. Dubai's ports and airports, once easy targets for smugglers, were now some of the most secure in the world. In conclusion, Dubai, a city that defies simple categorisation. On one side, it stands as a testament to human ambition, a place where vast fortunes are built and where luxury knows no bounds. But on the other side, where shadows lurk, where the wealth and glamour can conceal a much darker underbelly. Throughout this exploration, we've uncovered the complexities that define Dubai today. We've seen how some of the world's most notorious criminals have sought refuge here, taking advantage of the city's booming real estate market, its global financial networks, and at times the complicity of corrupt officials. But we've also seen the government's attempts to tackle these criminal elements, from strengthening financial regulations to forming global partnerships in law enforcement. Dubai is internationally known as a safe haven for criminals on the run, and has quickly earned a reputation as the new Las Vegas. But for how much longer? We'll need to watch this space and see. But anyway, I'm Hawaii 5-0, and this is Patsy Crime. Booyah! Like, subscribe, and don't get wide.